I made $110 an hour selling 3D prints, and you are going to learn from my mistakes so that you can make even more. More money, not more mistakes. Because I made a lot of mistakes. So I did it. I had my very first event selling 3D prints. I've been into this for a year and a half now, and I love it. I'm completely obsessed with the technology and all the things that you can make with 3D printing. But I didn't realize how terrifying it is to put yourself out there in the public face, one-on-one in person. It's one thing for me to sit here and talk to a screen, but another thing to have actual people come by and look at my stuff that I've printed. There's just this terrible feeling of nervousness, like, oh, they're gonna think it's just gimmicky, they're gonna hate it, they're gonna hate me, they're gonna punch me in the face, they're gonna curb stomp me. But I was so wrong. And that's where my first mistake was made, was my mindset. Oh, you gotta have the grind set to make money. Work 9 to 5, never stop. Be on that grind set, 9 to 5, passive income, Bitcoin. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is the way that I perceived myself was completely wrong from the way that people were going to perceive me as they came to my booth to buy my prints. So have confidence in your product. People are going to love it. If you love it, there's somebody else that's going to love it. I mean, I felt like the Candyman in the original Willy Wonka movie, where people are just throwing money at him and I can't keep track of what's going on, and I'm giving people stuff, and it was crazy, and people just loved it. They loved the idea that something was created by someone digitally and then it turned into a physical thing from a computer. They love the idea that there is infinite possibilities, and most everyone's seen it on TikTok but hasn't seen it in real life. That was my first mistake. I didn't have confidence that the people I was selling to were going to find value in the things I was selling. I find value in them, so why wouldn't I think that others would too? My second mistake was my biggest regret of the night. I didn't have an accurate inventory before I went to the event. I was so scrambled up and trying to get everything together and calm my nerves down that I forgot to count everything that I had. And I sold a lot of stuff. I thought I was going to be able to write it down on a piece of paper as time went on, which shows how I had absolutely zero idea how busy it was going to be. I thought I was going to be able to write each transaction down and count it at the end. No way. I was on my feet for the entire 4-hour event. I ended up with a $466 revenue. That means that's how much money people gave me for my prints. But without my accurate inventory, I have no idea how much those specific prints cost me material-wise. And so I have no idea how much of my money that I got is actually an increase from the money that I spent to make the prints. I can make an educated guess, and I know it's going to be somewhere around $350 in profit, but that's just a guess. I have no clue, and I'll never know for this first event because I didn't have that inventory, and I wish I did. So in the future, get an accurate count of your inventory, and I will too.
We are all in this together.
I realized my microphone hasn't been on the entire time, and I've been accidentally using my laptop microphone, but I'm not re-recording this. The third mistake, and I won't really call it a mistake, more learning experience, which I'm most excited to tell you about, is what sold the most. If you want to run a 3D print shop, this is where you should pay attention because there were clear winners. Number one, teeny tiny animals. From the instant that I set out my bucket of 3D printed minis, people were rifling through them, digging them, filling up little baggies with tiny animals. They were ravenous. They couldn't get enough of these tiny animals, and they wanted more. People were like, can you make this animal? Can you make this animal? Can you make this animal? I said, maybe. I didn't make them is the cool part. You can print the exact same tiny animals by subscribing to a creator like Zoo3D, who I get my teeny tiny animals from and slice and print. They're amazing. They sell like crazy, and they're so cheap to produce, and even just selling them for 60 cents a piece, which I kind of did by selling 5 of them for $3 in a baggie, or 3 of them for $2, or 1 for $1. They just made a ton of my shop's money for the event. People loved the tiny animals. Print tiny animals. Print tiny animals. The next best thing that I sold were medium-sized print toys. So that's anywhere that ranges from these little snakes that I had to like full-length dragons, basically that max out the print size of my A1 combo, or would be the same as like the average like Prusa bed size. And those sold like crazy. I was out of dragons and snakes and things within the first hour of my event, and I had to like scramble to try and fill in my table. I needed to have more stock, which is my 4th mistake, and I'm not going to cover that. I just should have printed a lot more stuff because it's sold out. Not totally. There's a lot of things that didn't sell, and I'm going to tell you about those in just a minute. The medium things sold a lot, and then after that was the keychains, also of Zoo 3D. Everything that I downloaded and printed from Mystic Mesh 3D sold. 100% of the items that I printed from Mystic Mesh 3D sold. His strategy works. His prints are fantastic. If you want to make money doing this, subscribe to Mystic Mesh 3D and his Patreon. Seriously. And I'm not claiming to be an expert on anything. I just want to tell you what has worked for me. My strategy of selling a lot of prints at an affordable price worked. I made way more money than I was expecting. So now that you know my pitfalls from my first event, you can avoid them, and you can make way more than $460 in one event. Easy to review. Be confident in your product. If you like it, other people will like it. 2, keep good track of your numbers. Wow, thank you, Apple. 3, sell the right things. You will know what's right for your demographic after your first event. I had no idea what my people in my area would want until I went out there with a bunch of different stuff and just threw stuff at the wall and see what sticks. The things that didn't sell were things like toothpick shooters or clicky things that parents didn't want to buy for their children, like fidgets. Things that are cute and quiet and flexy. People love that stuff. So put yourself out there. If you're thinking about starting a 3D printing business, just start. I've only been printing for about 3.5 weeks in order to get my stock for this event. Next time, I would like to have more printers and more time so I can get an even greater stock and a bigger booth and a bigger presentation. And I want to see you do the same. So comment below your experiences of selling 3D prints or some ideas of what you think is going to help me or help you in the future. This has been High B 3D Buzz Buzz.